Before I start my talk, I want you to know I'm going to include some surveys embedded within the talk. You're welcome to participate, but because this is a pre-recorded video, your responses won't show up, obviously. My talk focuses on YouTube and videos that are posted to social media and the potential that these have for being a resource to animal behavior scientists. I'll include a case study on a specific study we did with mockingbirds and how they respond to nest predators, but I'll also focus a lot on the general question of using something like YouTube in animal behavior research. Now, the foundational assumption of my research, of this YouTube research, is that a lot of us as scientists are interested in dramatic behavioral events that don't happen very often, but we want to sample them. Well, they also attract the attention of non-scientists who have a phone in their pocket, record that event, and then share it to social media. So we might be able to harvest off the data that they collect for us. So I want to get some ideas that you have. What's your knee-jerk response? What would it be like to collect data from YouTube or other social media? I suspect a lot of what you say is going to be negative, and I concur with a lot of that negativity. YouTubers love to video their cats in their backyard with all sorts of anthropogenic bias and ignorance about background behavioral theories and all that. Yeah, it's all really bad. They don't record the season, time of day, social context. It's pretty bad. So now that I've told you all the bads, let me tell you about the study we did with YouTube. Here we go. So we study a common, very visible species, the northern mockingbird. It's located all over North America. My collaborators, Christine Stracy and Kirsty Savage, have been studying the anti-predatory behavior of the mockingbirds for a lot longer than I have. So let me give an example or a study that the two of them worked on with collaborators. Specifically, Christine Stracy set up a bunch of nest cameras, video cameras, next to dozens of mockingbird nests in Florida over dozens of hours, dozens of days, resulting in oodles of hours worth of video data. And she was able to document several actual predation events, 3 from a crow, 4 from a cat, and 5 from a snake. And what she found that was really neat and unexpected was that the mockingbirds used characteristic call types in response or in association with each of the predation events. So when the crow came, the mockingbirds gave these screams. When the cat came, the mockingbird gave chats. And when the mockingbirds were near the snakes, they gave chucks. So scream means crow, chat means cat, chuck means snake. And that's a really cool result by itself. To my collaborators, this study suggested a follow-up study was needed in which we do a field experiment. So they contacted me. We located dozens of different mockingbird nests, and then we presented predators, either actual predators or stuffed predators, to the mockingbirds, and we monitored their response. And I encourage you to go check out Christine Stracy's talk, which is Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Before we started this field study, before we invested all the time and resources into it, I suggested, why don't we go to YouTube and see what we can find? So I went to YouTube to collect pilot data. So let me show how this works. I could just type in mockingbird crow or something like that. And then you can see I get a bunch of possibilities right there. I thought, hey, this might work. So we ended up with a list of dozens and dozens of videos. And of course, we were able to use some of the videos, but we had to throw out a lot of them. So let me show some of the ones we threw out. Oh, what a shame. There's a mockingbird there. It's clearly mobbing the cat, and I have no idea what calls it's using, whether it's using chat or anything. Oh, well, throw it out. Here's another one that's kind of fun. It says that mockingbirds attack a crow. It turns out that the crow is a man with the name of Crow. Mr. Crow gets mobbed by the mockingbird. So there you go. Here's another one we had to throw out. Let's see the snake. There's the mockingbird, but there's no vocalization. So nice try. All right. But some of the videos work quite well.
I just saw this little
mockingbird,
right there to the right.
Crow,
big bird up there on the left.
And you can hear the scream. This is great. Okay, it worked well. So here's another one. Look at that. The mockingbird gave chucks. Again. All right, wonderful. So that's good. So in general, the YouTube study worked really well as a pilot study. The data matched what we would have predicted to find. So let me show you the data. We got the screams in general for the crow. For the cat, we got a lot of chats. And for the snakes, we got a lot of chucks. We found 17 crow videos on YouTube, 18 cat videos. We could have gotten a lot more, but we decided to draw the line somewhere. There's a lot of cat videos on YouTube. And then we found 7 mockingbird mobbing snake videos. We had a fourth call that we didn't get in the first study. It's the hue call. Turns out hue calls are used in when mockingbirds encounter humans. And of course, humans are involved in the creation of these videos. So it wasn't too surprising. What was a little bit surprising was that we had some extra scream calls outside of the crow calls, but that made sense when we realized that scream calls are used, yes, with crows, but also when mockingbirds are talking with their mates. So we paid attention to, in these cat and snake videos, was there a mate present? And that helped to explain it, a lot of the variation. So 5 of the 6 scream dominant videos in these cat ones had 2 mockingbirds present. And when the chat was dominant, only 2 of 10 had a couple of mockingbirds. We found similar patterns with the snakes. So it worked, our study. Great, that's cool. Zooming out, what we did is not all that fundamentally new. It's just crowdsourcing data collection. And that happens a lot with these excellent scientific archives of videos and other kind of natural data, such as Macaulay library, Xenocanto, some other things. And these scientific sources have the big advantage of recording a lot of this relevant data that scientists want, like what kind of recording equipment and what season and what species. There's some legitimacy there that may not be present in YouTube. So what advantage, if any, does YouTube have over these other methods for crowdsourcing data collection? The answer, I think, is that it's just a massive archive. During this very video that you're watching right now, there's going to be over 7,000 hours of YouTube content created somewhere in the world. For context, the entire Macaulay library is about 1/3 of that. For more context, over the past year, there's been about 500,000 times as much YouTube content created as Macaulay content. Yeah. But of course, most YouTube video, it's just trash from an animal behavior perspective, right? It's not about animals. It's about do-it-yourself videos and bands and blah, blah, blah. So I decided, well, let's actually search both Macaulay and YouTube to see whether I could get the same kind of data from both. So I tried to do this mockingbird mobbing predator study in Macaulay, and ran into no usable data at all, even though I found 42 great videos on YouTube and could have found more for cats. Now, of course, Macaulay is useful. It's got a lot of great stuff. But what I found is that usually YouTube was pretty comparable. So if you take charismatic bird and mammal species, such as birds in paradise, American black bear, Macaulay has a lot of great stuff. So does YouTube. But if you take a lot of species that the general public wouldn't consider charismatic, Macaulay doesn't really have that much. And YouTube still has a lot. So if you want to study tree hoppers or gray tree frogs or salmon or lizards, you could probably put something together on YouTube, but not on Macaulay. So is YouTube actually getting used by researchers? To answer that question, I did a Web of Science database search and found over 10,000 articles that have been written with keywords animal and video. Of those 10,000 plus videos, fewer than 100, less than 1%, we're using YouTube. So no, scientists are not using YouTube much. And I'm wondering, what are we missing? Another possible benefit of using YouTube is that we can connect ordinary citizens to science. There's a cool opportunity there. So how might animal behavior scientists use YouTube? How might you use YouTube? Well, for research, we've already talked about some of this. You could conduct a pilot study. Maybe you're writing a grant proposal. You want to have some data proving that your ideas will work. Maybe you have an unexpected observation in the field or in the lab, and you want to know, is that legit? Somebody might have an observation like that on YouTube. Go look for it. You might do a complementary study, the way that the YouTube study I'm reporting on complements the field study that we did. Or you might have a standalone study. Shatchner et al. Did a great study trying with over 1,000 YouTube videos, where they saw whether the animal movements in dancing animals were coordinated with the beats of the rhythm of the music that was in the background. In other words, can animals really dance? And spoiler alert for cats, they can't dance. All right, so YouTube could also be used as an educational resource. I'm guessing a lot of you, perhaps most of you, already do something like this. Great way to enhance lectures. You can do an online lab again in case COVID part 2 comes along. Hopefully not. Good critical thinking assignment for spotting anthropomorphism. A lot of different ideas. So I want to know, what ideas you have. Put them in, and if you get in touch with me, let's talk more. There's a lot of great stuff out there. I'll end by thanking the YouTube content creators that we were very dependent upon. I've never met these people, but I very much appreciate their work. Thank you. And I look forward to interacting with many of you in the future.